Oh, yeah, that's our 70s music right there. For our next guest who will be here on Saturday for 70s night, that's the song that the Sabres used to come out to in warm-up back in 71. Mr. Schoenfeld, good morning. How are you today?
Hello, guys. How are you? I'm
Jim
doing very well, thanks.
Schoenfeld joins us on the line. Saturday is November 2nd, which means it is 70s night, and there will be commemorative banners for the first 10,000 fans in attendance, and many Sabres alumni that played in that decade will be there in that era, and one of them joins us on the line, Mr. Jim Schoenfeld. I have a top three for you. Top three moments. Now, granted, I wasn't born until 1980, so let me just keep this. I'll give you my top 3 stars. Number one, in no particular order. Number one, your turtleneck was unbelievable. That you played back when that you wore back when you played, and I have a picture of it right here. Number 2, and I want to know if your teammates ever ripped on you for that. Number 2, have another donut, okay?
Yeah.
And the Boston player that you drove through the end boards and at the old Buffalo Odd. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks. Nice to be on the air.
Yeah, thank you very much. So tell us, you're looking forward to coming back into Buffalo. When was the last time you were here?
Oh, well, I usually get there every summer. Still have some real close friends, Derek Smith and Larry Playfair, Freddie Stanfield, like to catch up. Unfortunately, this summer I had a little medical issue and I kind of missed the trip. But anyway, yeah, no, it's good to get to see some of the old cronies from the 70s and look at each other and see how poorly we've all aged.
Well, one of them we had on the show the other day, and he told us specifically not to refer to him as Jerry. He said, just call me Kong.
Okay, yes, that's how I referred to him for years, was Kong, yes.
Now, he said that he carried you over the years as you were D partners, not the other way around.
Well, I think there were times when I would agree with him. If you look at the pairing, I was more the defensive shot blocker, and he had the guy with a big shot from the point and was a puck mover, and I thought we were a pretty good twosome for a few years there, and actually a good marriage of our talents. But I was light enough then. He probably could have carried me. He'd have a harder time today.
What can you tell us about, playing back in the 70s? Obviously without the social media, it just seemed like the players of that generation could really become a really tight-knit team, doing a lot of things together away from the rink. What can you tell us about your time back then with your team?
Well, when I look back, when I've been in hockey for a long time, it was the closest knit group that I've ever been involved with. I believe one year 9 of our wives were expecting at the same time, and so we were young men with young families. We really cared for each other. We got together a lot socially, and then we had a bond that I think endures. It's not like, we can all stay in touch with one another every day. But I think the proof of our closeness is when we do see each other, we just pick up where we left off. There's no break-in period. There's no small talk. It's right back to the way it was. And it was a close-knit group. The only dark spot is that we didn't get the job done. We came close, but we were beaten by a pretty good team in the Flyers, and it took years to get another kick at it. I think it was 79-80 that we lost to the Islanders in the semifinals. So that's a long time, between challenges. But I do look at that group in the 70s as a real tight group of players and families.
Joining us on the line right now, Jim Schoenfeld, former captain of the Buffalo Sabres. Important to mention that. Played in the OHL. You coached after your career. You started in the American League. You coached a long time in the NHL. You finished in the American League in 06, 07. So you saw hockey change a lot from the time, from when you were in junior through your time in the NHL. What are some of the biggest changes you noticed from yourself as a player to when you finished as a coach in the players then?
Well, the game was very different in the 70s. In the 70s, bench clearing brawls were kind of the norm. It wasn't an exception to the rule, and for some teams, it was kind of a game plan. We're going to go out and try to terrorize these guys for a period and a half, and then we'll play hockey till that third period and win the hockey game. And the game, I think it had a bit of a degree of insanity, more outlaw hockey, if you want to say. And then towards the end of the 70s, people started to realize that if you can't skate, you can't play, and you can't keep up, you're probably not going to be in the lineup. So even the hard players, the enforcers, the tough guys, they had to learn to be players. They had to be good players, reliable defensively. When they're on the ice, they couldn't take bad penalties. When push came to shove, they were still called upon to do their duty. But I think the game, and I look at it now, I just retired this year from being with the Rangers for a long time. And if you can't play now, you can't play. It just isn't enough because people are playing between the whistles. So the most impactful tough guys, if you want to call them, are the guys that can throw the big hit. Make that kind of a confrontation, and then if the other team objects and they've got a soldier they want to send forth, then push comes to shove. But you have to play between the whistles, whereas back in the 70s, there was a lot of nonsense after the whistles. And I do say nonsense because it didn't all result in a terrific fight for the fan to watch. A lot of it was clutching, grabbing, milling around, and just taking 3.5 hours to play a game of hockey.
Well, let me ask you this. Jim Schoenfeld joining us. You were a physical player. I mean, your penalty minutes would indicate that, the era, the style of play that you – were you ever scared? Like, what were pre-games for you? And this is a question I like to ask because, these are emotions that I think a lot of players that had to play and were relied on in a physical or a fighting type of role, experience some, fear or anxiety or whatever. Were those ever emotions that you felt before a game?
Well, let's put it this way. When you're talking about visualization, your goal scorer, he's lying in bed having this, before his pregame nap, and he's seeing himself roof it top shelf and face off at center ice after all his teammates give him his high five. And the enforcer, he's lying there half asleep in a cold sweat with his hands around someone's neck trying to choke the life out of them. So it's very different. Your preparation is different. And I've always had a high regard for guys that took on that role because, it's not a role that many do for themselves. It's all for their mate. And some people are better at answering the challenge than others. And back then, that's sort of what, the enforcer had to do. And that's remained consistent. But I do think that it's a tough gig. It really is. It's a hard, I should say, it's a hard way to make an easy living because, you scrap, what it's like, and you have a good fight, and then, everybody's patting you on the back, and you go into the shower, and all of a sudden you start washing your hair, and you got all these lumps in your head. You say, how did that happen? I didn't think the guy got anything on me. And then the next day you go to pick up your hockey stick, and your hands are all beat up, and you got to go out and play again. So it's different. I'm glad to see the game has changed in regards to that because the fact is that enforcers got better and better. Just like anything, players got faster, they got stronger, shots got harder. And when you looked at that, say, the last generation, I was worried that someone was going to get badly hurt. It used to be that if you don't swing a stick, no one's going to get hurt in a fight. You might get a broken nose or, at the very worst, a cracked jaw and some broken knuckles.
That's it, eh?
Yeah, that doesn't sound that bad.
That's it. That's all you're going to get.
Well, but now, I mean, these guys have become so prolific and so efficient that if it's a mismatch, and generally now it's heavyweight against heavyweight, in a way, they keep each other in the game. Whereas there was a little less honor in the 70s. And It was sometimes the skill guy would get trapped with a scrapper, and you know, they would learn to hang on so they wouldn't get.
And
hurt too
that's
badly,
kind of
but-
how that role evolved, right? Was back because there was a time when you were playing that Danny Gare had to fight for himself. I mean, 50 goals. Andy's fighting the big guys, Clark Gillies, and all these super tough guys.
Yeah, I mean, and the Islanders were a great example of a team that each player almost did everything. They all scored. They all checked. They all scrapped. They all finished their checks. And if you have a specialized group where some score, some check, some fight, you know, eventually they just outnumber you. But you know, Danny came in, and that was the type of player he was his entire career. He was a courageous, skilled hockey player with a tremendous shot. And you know what? He couldn't have played the game any other way. I mean, that was his heart. You know, he had the heart of a lion, I thought, and played the game hard. You know, he didn't ask for a break. He didn't give any breaks, and so the odd time push is going to come to shove. And I remember the fight with Clark, and you know, Danny's trying to just spur things up. You know, stir things up. You know, spur his mates on. You know, there were probably smaller targets he could have looked at, but and Clark's a pretty honorable guy. I don't think he would take advantage in a situation like that. But it was a good scrap, and both players skated away.
It's a great scrap.
Continue to play well.
So when you came into the league in early 70s, had an incredible career, retired in the mid 80s. Then you got into coaching, and it went through the 80s and 90s and all the way up. And you've seen the evolution of the game. Do you like where the game is at right now? Do you feel or wish there was still a little bit more physicality and maybe a little bit more fighting? Or do you like where the game is going?
You know, there'll never be a situation where you like everything about the entire game or where people are always going to agree. But I do, and I'll go back to what I said, players are better. They're just better. They're physically better. You know, I mean, there was a time when no one has run a 4-minute mile. And then once that bar was established, you know, that it just kept getting faster. And the players now are faster. They're more highly skilled. The equipment's better. You know, I was an old shot blocker. I think I broke my feet 4 or 5 times. And now it's hard for guys to break their feet. You know, they have that great equipment. They stand there. So I like the way the game has evolved. I like the fact that you have to be able to play. I do still appreciate that a team is comprised of different components, and you still need your guys who are better scorers, better checkers, better playmakers, you know, tougher guys, better hitters. So you still have to have that variety of player. But by and large, yeah, I think the game is good. And for me, the proof of the pudding is watching playoff hockey.
Yeah.
Playoff hockey, listen, it's physical. You win the Stanley Cup, you've gone through a war, you know, for a month and a half, 2 months, however long it takes. And, you know, you stand there at the end with a big prize. You paid a price because everybody's trying to finish checks hard. If push comes to shove, they've got guys. There aren't a lot of fights, but there are some. But just the general physical play between the whistles, I think, is great right now in the playoffs. I think it's very exciting hockey, and that's hockey at its best. During the season, you know, you're playing 3-4 times a week. You're traveling coast to coast. There are going to be duds. There are going to be off nights.
Jim
You just
Schoenfeld.
don't have your best to bring.
Joining us on the line here. Only a couple more minutes with you. Don't forget, everybody, 70s night, November 2nd, first 10,000 fans will receive a commemorative banner. It's Halloween. I bet Sonny and Cher was a pretty popular Halloween costume back in the day for the team.
I don't remember the costumes. I remember we had some terrific parties, I'll tell you that. That was the young guys always had to throw the Halloween party, the young single guys. And that was sort of the rule, and they did a tremendous job. We had a lot of laughs. I think my Well, I can't tell you my favorite.
Yes, you
Anyway,
can.
Yes, you
yes,
can.
you can. You can say anything.
Don't worry, no one's
Just
listening
all you-
anyway. It's just
listen,
between
no
between
one's
us.
listening.
Mr.
Anyway.
Schoenfeld, Craig told a story the other day about how he single-handedly tore his team's chances from winning a Stanley Cup down by hurting their best player off the ice. So you can say anything you want on the show.
No, that's okay. We'll let this one go.
Oh, wow. On that one, Rib, come on, get it out of him.
Okay, I will tell you. Okay.
There we go.
Wow,
Old
that was
man
hard.
costume. It was this old man costume, and throughout the night, no one knew who it was. And he kept making passes to all the women. He had a cane, and if they had a skirt, he was trying to look under and look down the top, and we're all wondering all night, who is this? Who is this? Well, at the end of the night, it was one of the wives of one of the players. So I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah.
Who
they're no
was
longer
it? That's
married,
unreal.
so
Who
I
was
don't
it?
want to mention the player or the wife.
Oh, come on. Come on. We got to try to figure this out. What year was it? Give me the year. Do you remember the year?
Yeah, it was mid-'70s.
Oh, yeah. Good one, Shoney. I'm going to guess it was Mrs. Smith.
No.
Okay. All right. Hey, great time. Thank you so much. Enjoy Saturday. You're coming in tomorrow, see some of the boys?
Yeah. It'll be fun to catch up. And congratulations to you guys. You know, I've been at this gig a long time, and I'm always happy, number one, when you don't know someone, to hear they're good guys, and number two, when they finish playing, to see them land on their feet and have a good career after hockey. So keep up the good work, man.
Oh, well, we'll
thank
pass
you
that
very much.
congratulations on to whoever you are intending that to be for. And
I just heard good guys.
I just heard good guys. I'm like, no chance, that's us. Thank you so much, Mr. Schoenfeld, for your time, and enjoy Saturday, because I know all of you will.
Yeah, take care, fellas.
Yeah,
Have a
thank
great
you
very
so
much.
much. I want to know who that was. I think that's an awesome costume. Oh, so
Okay,
one,
how about this? How about forget the costume? He just called us good guys.